Hello everyone, this is Kuntal Joisher. Thank you all for joining me today on a Sunday evening to listen to my journey of climbing Everest as a vegan. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about veganism, of course, but food as well, and fitness as well, and how to build endurance and how to build stamina on a vegan diet. I'm going to quickly share the video on my Facebook profile, and in that time I really want you folks to let me know if you can hear me okay and you can see me okay. So just let me know, it would be awesome. Just give me a second. Okay, so I am live on my Facebook profile page as well. I have a whole bunch of questions that I have received from a lot of you folks, and so I'm going to try and start with those questions. One of the first questions I got was how difficult is it to climb mountains on a vegan diet? This was asked by Rohit Kumar. So let me tell you something about climbing as a vegan. So one of the first things is that I have been a vegan now for 15 years, and let me tell you one thing, that I have actually veganism or vegan diet has actually never been a hindrance at all during my entire climbing journey. Now going into specifics, when I started climbing, one of the first things that a whole bunch of people in the climbing community told me is that you really need to eat meat, eggs and dairy. I also went online and I researched a little bit about conventional diet that mountaineers follow, and it was filled with different kinds of meat, different kinds of dairy, cheese and all those kinds of things. And so I was like, okay, what am I supposed to do? I told myself that I'm going to climb Everest, and I'm going to climb as a vegan, or I'm not going to climb it at all. So that's what I did in terms of my journey. I mean, it was a little bit challenging to begin with, and challenging not in the sense that I had to there were no vegan foods available or anything, but challenging to actually convince other people that hey, vegan food is okay, and it can actually be made and everything is just going to be normal. So that is what a bigger challenge was actually in my case, and not finding vegan food or any of those things. Now specifically I'll give you one instance. I was on a climb, and I had told the expedition team that I am actually a vegan climber, and that this is what a vegan this is what vegan food diet means. And they said, okay, everything is fine, we will cater to this. And then as soon as the expedition started, they started feeding me all these non-vegan food items, and it was like, okay, I initially didn't realize these are all non-vegan food items. They would feed me bread with eggs in it, or they would feed me some stuff with dairy in it, or those kind of things. And then I realized that I was eating non-vegan stuff. So that is when I actually sat down with my expedition operator. I sat down with the cook, and I sat down with the team, and I explained to them what veganism means and why I am a vegan and why this is so important to me. And they actually came on board. And for last 4.5 years, I have been climbing with exactly the same adventure agency, with exactly the same cooks, with exactly the same Sherpas, and believe me, I have never had a problem. They exactly know what vegan means, they exactly know what vegan diet means, and they have always prepared for me all the vegan meals. And let me tell you, vegan food is not at all difficult, it's actually super easy. I'm going to go into the next question, which is from Amit Kumar, which says, do you get sufficient body warmth on a vegan diet? Now, I'm just going to try and quickly answer this question. Body warmth essentially is a function of a lot of things. Specifically, the first one being what kind of clothing you are wearing. The second one being mentally how you have trained yourself to tackle warmth or to tackle cold climate more than anything. And Third thing is the amount of calories that you are putting in your body, because essentially body is burning those calories to maintain a certain temperature, and that's how your body is staying warm. So if you are wearing the right kind of clothing, and you are layering in the right way, you are generally going to be all right when you are up on the mountains. Now, in terms of finding vegan gear, it used to be a big challenge when I started out, but let me tell you, today there are synthetic alternatives to down feathers, there are synthetic alternatives to woolen clothing, and there is synthetic alternatives to leather gloves and leather boots and everything. So essentially there is no excuse to not be a vegan or to use any animal products while climbing. It's super easy to do it. Every top brand in the world makes vegan clothing. It's like accidentally vegan clothing, so that's not a problem at all. Now, in terms of the biggest piece which I feel is actually mental training for cold. I think that's how you actually, that's what you typically do on a big mountain like Everest or any other climbs that you're going to go on. If I were you, I would actually spend a lot of times going and climbing into these big mountains, or maybe slightly smaller mountains, and seeing how your body reacts in those conditions, and learn how to do your clothing, start understanding how you want to eat, what you want to eat, those kinds of things. And a combination of these three things, your clothing, how much calories you are putting in your body, combined with what kind of mental training you have done, that's going to keep you warm on the mountain. If you are a vegan or if you are not, does not matter at all. Let me tell you one thing categorically: mountains do not discriminate at all. You could be a male, you could be a female, you could be a vegan, you could be anything. As long as you have trained hard and as long as you have prepared well, that's what mountains care about. Other things mountains really do not care about. Here's another question that I have. Okay, it's almost like a similar question. It's by Arpita Bhargava. It says, how do you find vegan food during treks and climbs? One of the things that I do is I do pretty much maximum of my trekking in the Nepal or the Indian Himalaya, and let me tell you that this side of the world is predominantly fairly vegetarian. So when you are on the trail, you anyway get a whole bunch of vegetarian stuff, and it's super easy to veganize the vegetarian stuff. For example, when I'm at a lodge and I'm ordering breakfast, I will typically eat oatmeal as my breakfast. Oatmeal is one of the best breakfasts you can eat at sea level, or at 5,000 meters, or if you are even on the top of the world at 9,000 meters. Now, oatmeal is typically oats, water, and boiled together. But, a lot of people put milk in it. But once you are trekking, they'll use milk powder. But you can just tell the lodge owners, or you can just tell your cook, or you can just, tell the people who you are trekking with that, hey, just don't put milk powder in it. And so the way I talk to, my cooks, or I talk to my lodge owners, is that I tell them, hey, make the oatmeal normal way you make, where you put oats and where you put water and where you boil them. And then just before you are going to add the milk powder, remove it in a cup and keep it aside for me. And then, I can have it, and I can be a vegan, and everyone else who wants their oatmeal with milk can have it. So, it's not a problem at all. So it's a win-win for everyone. And in this way, I have actually able to veganize entire menus while, I have been trekking, and I have never had a problem. Now, let me tell you a few other things that you can actually eat while on the way, especially if you are climbing in the Indian Himalaya or the Nepal Himalaya. Most of the times you easily get dal bhat, roti sabji. And dal bhat, roti sabji, unless someone is putting, butter or ghee in it, is pretty much always going to be vegan. So just cross check, and you can, eat dal bhat, roti sabji all the time, and you will get enough calories, you will get enough nutrition to climb, trek, do whatever you need to. In addition, in this part of the world, you easily can get momos, you can easily get, noodles, you can easily get everything from pizza, pasta to burgers, and all of that can be easily veganized. Just ask them to not put cheese or just put butter. It's just a question of going and talking to them and telling them, this is what you want. And most people are really, really very, very receptive when I've done that, and they have always, fed me vegan food. So I have never actually had a problem finding vegan food. I somehow feel, I don't know, but I don't know why it is such a big thing that, hey, a vegan climbed Mount Everest. It should be a normal thing that a vegan climbed Mount Everest. Veganism was never a hindrance in my entire Mount Everest journey. So, but for me it was a big thing because I wanted to prove everyone that, hey, veganism is just a normal thing, and it's not going to be a hindrance in your journey. So, that's, something I wanted to say. Sunny Chaudhary is asking a question. How did you build your stamina to climb Mount Everest? I'm going to take some time to actually sort of, go into a little detail of this question. So, I did 3 things specifically to build stamina or build endurance to climb Mount Everest. And but before that, let me tell you that climbing Mount Everest is 90% of mental fitness and only 10% of physical fitness. So you can be a superman in terms of your physical fitness, but if you don't have that mental fitness or that mental attitude or that attitude, then you are not going to succeed in climbing big mountains. But since the question is specifically asking in terms of physical endurance and physical stamina, I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I do 3 things in terms of my physical fitness. The core piece of my physical fitness is cardiovascular endurance, and I typically tell people that choose your most favorite cardio activity that you like. It could be something like running, it could be something like stair climbing, it could be something like hiking, it could be something like cycling. Just choose one of this and do a lot of it. Like for example, I train 6 days a week, and out of that 3 to 4 times I'm always doing cardio intensive exercises. The second piece is of course doing strength training. I feel that cardiovascular endurance is super important, but if you don't have the muscles to support that cardiovascular endurance, there's going to be an imbalance in your body, and eventually you are going to face a big problem, or you're going to get injured. So it's very important to strength and functional train. And so what I typically do is, if I'm doing 3 or 4 cardio sessions a week, I will also do about 2 to 3 strength training sessions a week. This will be really, really hardcore strength training sessions a week. Most of my strength training happens using body weight, so I don't really lift big weights. Like, I'm not like someone pumping a lot of iron. And the third thing that I did in the run up to my Everest climb is I did a lot of high intensity interval training. Now when I was climbing Everest and I was researching or I was trying to find out a common pattern among people who were successful on Everest, I realized that one common thing that I saw was that most of these people actually had a really low heart rate, a really low resting heart rate. A lot of people I saw had a resting heart rate of about 40, 42. And so I quickly realized that if I have to be successful in climbing Mount Everest, then my resting heart rate has to be around 40 to 45. I checked my resting heart rate. I was really fit and I thought my resting heart rate would be low, but I was surprised that my resting heart rate was about 67, 68. And so over a period of next few years, I actually seriously started including a lot of high intensity training into my regimen. And just before I went to climb Everest in 2016, my resting heart rate was 45. Now in past, when I have gone on big climbs and when I am at 20,000 feet or when I am at 22,000 feet, my resting heart rate typically tends to be a little higher, like 85, 90 at those altitudes. And that is very, that is natural because your body is trying to, there's less oxygen, so your body is, pumping really hard to supply oxygen to the entire body. But last year, when I was climbing Everest, at 23,000 feet, my resting heart rate was about 56. And that is only because, of being very, very consistent in terms of doing a lot of cardio endurance, a lot of strength training, combined with a whole bunch of HIIT, and of course, doing a lot of mountain climbing. So these are the three pieces of physical fitness that I do when I'm at the sea level. But apart from this, I do easily about 100 treks a year just in the Western Ghats in near Mumbai where I live, and I end up spending easily about 35 to 40 days climbing in the Himalaya, just so that I'm ready, and just so that there's a lot of muscle memory built into my body, so that when I go on my big climbs, the muscle memory gets activated, and mentally I am ready to climb these big mountains. So these are the three pieces that I typically do to increase my physical fitness. If any of you folks have more questions, I would be. The question was from Anna, and the question is, what do you eat above 5,000 meters? So let me tell you what I eat above 5,000 meters. So at Everest, essentially, the base camp is at 5,300 meters, which is approximately 18,000 feet. And at the base camp, we have a proper kitchen tent with all access to fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, grains, and legumes, and seeds and nuts and everything. So we actually cook like really, really awesome food at the base camp. I have eaten everything from all Indian vegetable curries to parathas to pav bhaji to even dosa to upma to poha, and everything from pasta to burger to pizzas, momos, pretty much whatever you can get at in Mumbai or anywhere in the world, we can get it at Everest Base Camp. So when we are at base camp, food is never a problem. But once we start going beyond Everest Base Camp, that is where the challenge starts. But if you are smart, then that challenge can fairly easily be tackled. In terms of what we eat at really high altitude, let me tell you what happens to your body at high altitude. When you are about 23 or 24,000 feet, your brain starts conserving oxygen to itself, to the heart, and to the most important parts of the body. It stops oxygen to places like your extremities, which is the fingertips, your nose, your ears and your toes. It just stops sending oxygen to those areas. It also additionally stops sending a lot of oxygen to your digestive system, which essentially means that you don't feel like eating once you are about 23 or 24,000 feet. You just feel like, I don't want to eat anything, I'm full, I'm feeling sluggish, I can't eat anything. But in spite of all those things, it's really, really important to eat, because at that altitude you are easily burning about 10 to 12,000 calories a day. When you are on an Everest summit, I was at a point where I was talking about what we eat at high altitude, and I was talking about that we really need to eat a lot of calories because we are burning a lot of calories. So let me get into a little more details. What I try and eat is highly calorie dense foods. So there is a company in the United States, its name is Outdoor Herbivore, and they make these dehydrated or dry freeze meals that are like really small in size, like about 250 grams to 300 or sometimes 350 grams, but they're packed with like 1,200 calories in them, and it's really easy to cook because you just add hot water into it, and in 15 or 20 minutes the meal is ready. And in one single small meal you get about 1,000 calories, which is really, really useful to you when you are climbing on these big mountains. In addition to this, when I am on the climbs itself, when I'm walking, when I'm walking for those 20 hours, I still need to put calories in my body. But at that time, if I'm eating solid food, it takes time to digest, and it takes time to be available to be used as calories. So what I do is I use something called these sports gels. There's a company in Mumbai called Unived, and Unived makes these amazing sports gels. So when I'm climbing, I will typically be taking one of these gels like every 1 hour or so, and putting these into my body. And because these gels are almost like watery, they are quickly broken down by your body and available to be used as calories. The great thing about the gels is that they also have a lot of sodium, potassium, magnesium that also helps with keeping your muscles functioning really well. Because you would, you could be getting into cramps and those kinds of things, but these gels help preventing those. So that's what typically I would be eating when I am high up in the mountain. But one thing that I tell a lot of people when they're climbing is that keep aside some of your comfort foods, things that you enjoy eating even when you're not hungry. So my comfort foods are like Oreo biscuits, and yes, Oreo biscuits are vegan. And then there's a whole bunch of Indian snacks, like deep fried Indian snacks. And then I really love a lot of nuts and dry fruits. So I keep a lot of these things with me when I start going up, higher on the mountain. And then I start, consuming this so that I'm getting all my calories that I need. And I use these, I can burn these calories on the mountain. So that's typically what I end up eating higher up on the mountain. Let me tell you, it's super easy to stay vegan and to find the right foods and to climb these big mountains. I have this question from Saurav. He says that I have turned vegan just a couple of months back and I have started to lose my gains in arms even though I am a calisthenics athlete. Now, how do I count my essential amino intake via vegan diet? It's very difficult. So, first of all, I am not into bodybuilding or I'm not heavily into calisthenics. But I know of a lot of vegan athletes who are in big time into calisthenics, and these are some of the elite athletes of the world who are able to maintain and actually build some serious fitness and do some kick-ass things in the calisthenics world. But I actually do not know, Saurav, what your diet exactly looks like. So, but I'm still going to guess that, what's going on. My assumption is that you are actually eating lesser calories. One of the big things that happens when you switch from a non-vegan to a vegan diet is that you, first of all the proteins, all the micro and macronutrients, all your vitamins, all your minerals, all your carbohydrates, all your fats, everything that you require to be a kick-ass elite athlete, everything is found in the plants world. So there is not any problem with plant-based nutrition. But when you switch from a non-vegan to a vegan diet, the thing is that sometimes you have to eat a lot more. You have to eat a lot more because once you start consuming those amount of calories, you'll definitely be getting all your protein. You'll be definitely getting all your right profile of protein, right amino acids. And it is also important to maintain a very wide variety of diet. So you have to mix it up with lot of vegetables, lot of fruits, lot of whole grains, lot of beans like red kidney beans, black kidney beans, white beans, chickpeas, mung beans, those brown small chana. So you have to sort of mix and match a lot of these things, and you will get the right protein amino acid profile. And as long as you are consuming enough of this, you will also be consuming enough protein to be able to sustain that muscle mass and also build that lean muscle mass. If you feel that you are lacking in your protein intake, then there are clean vegan protein options very much available in the market. Unived is one such company that makes a lean protein supplement, so you can always use that and add it to your diet. What I do is when I wake up in the morning and I'm drinking my smoothie, sometimes I will add the Unived protein powder to that smoothie. Sometimes when you are making the roti, I also add the protein powder to the roti. So sometimes I will also add it to my dahi, so the vegan dahi that I make at home. So as long as you are eating a wide variety of vegetables, fruits, grains, legumes, beans, all of these things, and you combine it with some protein supplementation, you should be very much fine, and I personally think you should not lose any body mass in terms of whatever you want to do. So the key has to be that you eat a wide variety of stuff from the plant world, and that should be it. Now, if you cannot, for example, let's say like afford a protein powder or something, then smartest thing is to maybe make a lot of peanut butter at home and eat a lot of peanut butter, and just eat a lot of rajma, eat a lot of chana, and just figure out the right things in the plant world. There are a whole bunch of right things in the plant world, and you will be completely fine. Like there's we eat a lot of dal on a daily basis, so mix and match the dal. There is chana dal, there's tur dal, there's masoor ka dal, so mix and match all of those dals, eat them with other protein sources, and you should be completely fine. I don't know what your diet is, so I really don't know the reason why you are losing the body mass. But again, there are a whole bunch of lifters and bodybuilders and calisthenics athletes in India also who are vegan. So if you want, get in touch with me. I will put you in touch with them, and you can maybe discuss with them. A few weeks ago, Roshni Sanghvi, who is one of leading bodybuilders in India, was also live on Fiapo. So maybe you can go and look at her video and also see, or maybe reach out to her and ask her that question too, and probably your query should get resolved. I am going to answer this one more question. Okay, I already answered that question. It was asked by Dory, and she said, I'm wondering how hard it was for you to fix your meals in the base camp or during the ascent. As already mentioned, vegan meals at base camp were super easy, and vegan meals during the ascent were also super easy. I have done 35 Himalayan expeditions, and till date I have never had a problem finding vegan food or cooking vegan meals or staying vegan on the mountain. So that's never been a problem at all. There's a question by Devendra Kumar, and he says, what's necessary for being a vegan mountain climber? So this is the last question that I'm going to take on. So the question is what it takes to be a vegan mountain climber. I think the question should be what it takes to be a mountain climber. As I said before, that vegan or not, it should not matter at all. It's not like vegan diet is or vegan lifestyle is a problem at all. I am not falling off my feet. Let me tell you a little bit about my journey itself. In 2009, when I decided to climb Everest, I was 110 kgs. I come from a Gujarati family and with absolutely no background in any endurance sports or any climbing or anything. So it's not like I had a genetic gift that I'm going to go climb these big mountains. So without any background, at 110 kgs, I was a vegan, and I was still able to transform myself and build the top of the world body on a vegan diet and climb Mount Everest. So climbing Mount Everest, the question has to be what it takes to be a mountain climber, and the straightforward answer is that you need a top of the world mind and you need a top of the world body. I already spoke about how to build a top of the world body. I'm going to answer the question how you gain that mental fitness or that mental stamina to climb these big mountains, and I'm just going to take a couple of minutes and answer this. I again did three things. The very first thing that I did where I started gaining a mental edge was to start pushing myself in my physical fitness regimens. For example, a typical workout for me would be to climb about 200 or 250 or sometimes 300 floors up and down. So I would climb these floors, and at the end of the workout I would be really tired, to a point where almost I would be knackered. And at that time I would tell myself, Kuntal, I really have to climb 50 more floors. And I actually go and climb that. And I started doing this with all my workouts. Like for example, if I'm doing 100 burpees in a specific workout, and these are full burpees where you do a full push-up, where you do a full squat, where you do a big jump. So it's like a really tough workout where you do, hundreds of these. And at the end of this, I would tell myself, let's do 5 more. And just keep pushing myself. And I started realizing that I was gaining a strong mental edge, that I was able to push myself when things went south, or when things started becoming tougher. So that was the first thing. The second thing that I did was I started working on things that I was fearful of. I was fearful of heights. I was fearful of hanging on big walls. I was always fearful of falling from these big walls. So I started overcoming all of these fears by actually building skill and by doing these things over and over again. So I did a mountaineering course. I couldn't finish the whole course. So I did one more mountaineering course. I couldn't finish that course again. I persisted and I did one more mountaineering course and I finished it. But by the end of that, I had built enormous amount of skill and enormous amount of mental stamina that I could do these things, without getting scared. So these are of course 2 things that I did. And the third thing that I did was, as I started getting better and better and stronger, on one of my expeditions, I got hit by a big bout of homesickness. I really got homesick, and I quit the expedition midway. I came back home. I made up an excuse that hey, the mountain seems unsafe. I shouldn't climb it. I came home. Rest of the team got to the top of the mountain. Till date, I regret that decision. But when I came home, I realized that if I want to climb Everest, and if I want to be successful at climbing and staying alive on the mountain, I cannot get homesick, or I cannot get let these distractions come in my life. And so from that day, the only thing that I wake up with, single purpose in my life, is that I have to climb Everest. I have to get ready for Everest. I have to stay alive on Everest. And I did everything with that single-minded focus of that I want to climb Everest and be safe and in one piece on the mountain. It also meant that I actually had to emotionally detach myself from my family. And I just had to say that, hey, okay, you know what, I have to focus, and I cannot let emotions, or I cannot let any of the distractions impact me on the mountain. And so for the last 3 or 4 years of my training, they were really hard, but these are the 3 things that I did that got me to a stage where when I was on Everest, I knew clearly that if the weather stays okay on the mountain, and if the terrain stays okay on the mountain, there is no way I'm not going to climb this mountain. And on 19th May 2016, I made it to the very top of the world as a vegan. And it's not like I was the only vegan, who climbed that day. About an hour after me, a girl from Alaska, her name is Paula Leonard. Paula also made it to the very top of the world. So 2 vegans made it to the very top on the very same day. And Paula has also been a long-term vegan, a long-term animal rights person, and both of us made it to the top. So there's I don't think it's a problem staying vegan and climbing these big mountains. I'm just going to check one more time in the comments if there are any questions, but otherwise I'm almost at the end of my session, I think. Let me just check. Okay, there is a question. Just give me a second. It says, how do you just give me a second. My internet is not very good today. Okay, the question is, did you see a higher rate of burnout in the non-vegan climbers? It's by Kim Diaz. So first of all, when I was climbing Everest, I was not out there to prove that my diet is superior to someone else's diet or anything like that. All I was out there to prove was that a vegan can climb Mount Everest, a vegan can climb a big mountain and be successful at it. So that's the sole goal I was with there on the mountain. I don't think, as I said in the beginning, I think most people who climb Everest are non-vegans. So it's not like there was a higher rate of burnout, and I don't think I can make a correct comparison because there are not many vegans climbing Everest. In 2016, there were 2 vegans climbing Everest, and in 2017, I don't know if there were any. So, I can't really make that, comparison. I know of a couple of vegetarians who were there on the mountain, but I don't think I can make that comparison. And in the, let me just see if there are more questions. Sorry guys, I should have checked this before. Okay, last question from Ajita Sharma. How do you walk to strengthen your legs for the climb? Is that something you do with the weights? I think this is not an, how do you strengthen your legs? I think the answer is again when I discussed, about my workouts. It's a mixture of cardio, vascular endurance exercises combined with a lot of strength training. But the biggest thing is you have to be consistent and you have to keep at it for a long period of time. That's when you get a top of the world body and a top of the world mind and top of the world legs and top of the world arms. When you see Usain Bolt running a 9.58 on an Olympic track, that did not just happen in 6 months. That guy has been working his ass off for 20 years, doing some crazy amount of training. That's what got him those kind of legs. That's what got him that kind of attitude, that kind of body, and that's how he did it. If you have a specific question about the kind of workouts, we can converse offline, and I will share it with you a little more details. I'm going to complete the live right now, but I want to announce 2 things. For any of you vegans who are out there in Mumbai, or any of you folks who want to be vegans, or any of you vegetarians or non-vegetarians who really want to try out some vegan food and see how healthy it is, or see how nutritious it is, or see how tasty it is, we are doing a potluck on September 17th, Sunday, from 6:30 p.m. onwards. So you are most welcome to join that potluck. Reach out to me if you want more details. And other thing, for anyone in entire India or across the world, if you want to know more about veganism, or if you want to try it out, the biggest and the longest vegan festival of India and possibly even the world is going to be happening in Mumbai from October 26th to November 12th. And there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff that is going to be happening here, right from food to nutrition to fitness to eminent speakers from across the world, celebrities from across the world. There's going to be restaurants, there's going to be a whole bunch of fun and information and everything. The grand finale of the festival is on November 12th, Sunday. So every one of you folks who are in and around Mumbai are most welcome. Okay, Veda has a question about my training regimen. Veda, I will share with you offline. But as I quickly mentioned, it's divided into 3 parts: cardiovascular endurance, strength training, and high intensity interval training. I will reach out to you offline and I will discuss with you then. For now, goodbye. Have a good Sunday. Enjoy your time. Have fun. And go vegan. Go vegan. It's good for you. It's good for the animals. And it's absolutely good for the planet. So please, please, please go vegan.